In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to create bistro lights on a hypothetical urban patio. The commands covered will include pipe, dupe edge, array along curve, and move face. In the image on the left here, you can see bistro lights hanging between light poles and the edge of a building overhang on a patio at Big Star, a restaurant in Wicker Park in Chicago, Illinois. And so this tutorial is going to create an approximation of this setting in Rhino. I will zoom in here on the right and just give you a rundown of the components that you'll model. So first we have a foot high base. It's about 20 feet by 20 feet. We have bistro light poles that are about 9 feet tall. And then we also have a poly surface that's extruded using the pipe command along a curve. And then we have the bistro lights themselves, which are spheres. And the array along curve command is used to distribute those equally along each of the curves. The first thing you want to do is start a new Rhino file. And for this tutorial, I'll be using the large objects, inches, feet, and inches template. So when you start up Rhino, make sure that you select that template. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename layer 1. We're going to call it base. And we're going to change the color to black. We're going to hit OK. And then we're going to create a box, which is going to be our base for our patio. So we'll start at 0, 0. And we'll make it, how about 20 feet by 20 feet by 1 foot. And then we'll change our view to shaded here so we can see that a little better. Next thing we're going to do is we'll rename layer 2 to light poles. And we will change the color here again to black. And we are going to go ahead and actually create some light poles. So I'm going to start just by creating a cylinder. And we'll do the base here. And we'll make the radius, how about, we'll do it 1 inch radius. And then we'll make this about 9 feet tall. And then we will actually move this over a little bit so it's right on the edge. And then the next thing we'll do is we will copy this down to the edge of the base. And I'll do 2 more here on the edge. And I will select all of them, type in distribute, and hit the y-axis setting, and it distributes equally along there. Next thing we're going to do is we will copy these objects from this side to the other side of our patio. And then, actually, let's undo that. And let's use a different base point. We'll use the outer edge of that circle and bring it there. Hit enter. And what I want to do now is I actually want to move the outer faces of the base just out a little bit. So I'm just going to move these out, how about 1 foot, just to give us a little bit of extra breathing room on the edge here. Okay, so now we've got a base, and we have 8 light poles. Next up, we're going to create some curves to represent the strings that go between each of the light poles. So to do that, just type in curve, and we'll start the curve here. And I'm actually going to hold down Shift to create a couple points here, and then we'll end up here. I'll hit enter. And then I'm going to select these points here, and I'm just going to bend them down a little bit just to show how the light can pull down that string. So it just gives it a little bit of realism. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do next is I could draw a new curve between each of these, but I might just try copying and pasting just to save a little bit of time. So I'll copy that here, and let's move this point over to here and see how that looks. We'll probably want to do something like that. That looks realistic. Now I'm going to copy this one over to here. Copy this one over to here. And copy this one to the end. And then I think we just need a few more. Let me copy that back. Nope. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now we have our curves for our strings, and I forgot to put those on a base. So let's call these, let's call them strings, and let's change our object layers here. Make that black. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to use the pipe command to create a three-dimensional rope, if you will, rope or string. I'm actually just going to select all of these at once. So I'll do multiple, and I'll just select them manually here. Of course, I could right-click in the layer menu if I wanted. I'm going to hit enter. Pipe radius of 1 inch seems a little big, so I'm actually going to try and just do 1/8 of an inch, so 0.125 inches, and then I'll hit enter. And we can already see that we have, these are now in 3 dimensions. However, they're sticking up above the poles here, so we could put a little cap on the pole, or we could just move our strings down. I think we'll just elect for the latter. I'll move these down negative 0.125 inches so that they are, I need to do that again. Okay, a little bit more maybe. And a little bit more. Oh, you know what? It's not selecting. Let's redo that. Let's get all of these on this layer. And now let's try that. Okay, that's good. And then, yeah, make sure you're saving your file. You don't want to lose any work. Yeah, once you do this, you're ready for the next step. Now we will create a new layer, and we'll just call it light bulbs. And we're just going to create some really basic spheres to represent the lights. If you want to do something more sophisticated, you could download a 3D model of a light fixture or try and model your own. But for the purpose of this demo, we'll just do a simple sphere. And we will start. We'll just start at the edge here. And maybe I'll turn on wireframe, make it a little bit easier to see. I just want to put it at the end. And I'm actually just going to kind of eyeball this. Get it a size that I want. That looks good to me. Let's go back to shaded. Not bad. The next thing we want to do is, rather than copying and pasting these manually along the curve and adjusting, we are going to do the ArrayCrv command. So we'll select our object, which will be the sphere, and then the path curve I want to be the edge of the top edge of this pipe. So I selected that. And then it's saying array by number of items. And so I'm actually going to input a number of, how about 8? And press enter. And it's already giving me a preview. So if I wanted, I could actually do 10. So I could actually increase that. Something I'm noticing here is that the light is actually mostly in the pipe. So I'm actually going to hit escape. And I'm going to move this down a little bit. So it kind of almost looks like it's hanging. And then I'll run the ArrayCrv command again. I'll select the object. I'll hit enter. I'll select the path, which is the top of the pipe. And then I will change the items to, how about 10? And then it looks good to me, so I'll hit enter when I'm done. Note that the ones on the edge are kind of in the pipe. I'm actually going to end up deleting those. But basically what you need to do now is just repeat this step for the rest of the strings. So I'm going to pause the recording while I do that, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, so I went ahead and created the spheres for each of these strings. I actually ended up copying them. Once I finished the first two, I copied them down because they're identical. But now you can see, if you're to go inside here and tilt the camera up, you can see that these strings are hanging over the patio, and there are a number of spheres representing lights in there. And so this is a nice first step, at least in terms of modeling. You could bring this into a rendering program if you wanted to create some, give it some textures or some realism. But that concludes this workflow demonstration. Thank you.